Although empaths are often known for their kind and understanding ways, they are only human. And since most empaths have the involuntary ability of feeling emotions more deeply than others, anger can feel quite intense for the empath. So what exactly are the signs of empath anger and rage? Welcome back, Psycho. Before we get into the video, have you liked and subscribed to our channel? Go ahead, we'll wait for you. Be sure to click the notification bell while you're there so you never miss a video. Alright, let's get into it, starting with number 1, pointing out flaws of others. One way you can instantly tell that an empath isn't being themselves is when they close off their natural empathetic ways. In moments of empath anger, they may shut down their natural emotional side in order to protect their vulnerability, and one way they may do this is by pointing out the faults of others. Like we said, empaths are only human, and although they can usually remain cool, calm, and collected on the outside, sometimes outer energies and obligations can become too much. And so, to avoid drawing attention to their own weaknesses, empaths may deflect attention to those around them in a way that is unlike their character. Ironically, most of the time, empaths completely understand the reasonings behind people's actions, but they don't point out their faults in panic mode, and almost always regret it later. Number 2. Sudden emotional outbursts. Another sure sign and obvious sign of empath rage are the sudden emotional outbursts. Although rare, empaths can fall victim to deep emotional outbursts of sadness, anger, and even extreme stubbornness if they are pushed to their boundaries, acting almost as a defense mechanism against their sensitive hearts. These outbursts are byproducts of empaths' hesitancy to set proper boundaries with certain people or obligations. In fact, for empaths who experience an extreme emotional outburst of any sort, they would have most likely had to have been subject to a significant amount of energy-draining people, repetitive disappointing situations, or because they simply took on more than they could handle. Number 3. The silent treatment. Because most empaths are so bothered by conflict within their social relationships, they can be all too familiar with using the silent treatment as a form of avoidance towards speaking out for themselves. While this can easily come off as a passive-aggressive form of creative conflict, empaths use their silent treatment for the opposite reason. To avoid further dismay, empaths purposely avoid speaking to or answering people to prevent themselves from stirring the pot or burdening the people around them. Although this method of empaths keeping their thoughts and emotions to themselves can help them properly see the situation from all angles in hopes of easing their distress, oftentimes it can leave an empath in a deeper pit of confusion and avoidance. So while the silent treatment may work in the moment, it's always a good idea for empaths to express themselves to avoid further mental burnout and sudden emotional outbursts. Number 4. Self-destruction. Empaths are known for their high sensitivity when it comes to absorbing and mirroring the emotions, feelings, moods, and energies, and even physical pain of the people around them. It's a superpower that comes with its many gifts. However, most empaths will say that their abilities are nothing short of exhausting and tiring. To know there isn't exactly an off button to these overactive senses can be daunting, and that can cause some empaths to resort to some questionable behaviors in hopes of tuning out those sensitivities. To avoid burdening others with their emotions and overactive thoughts, empaths may turn to endangering themselves in the form of self-harm, overindulgence, overworking, overexercise, abusing drugs and alcohol, and the list just goes on. The act of self-destruction can be very different from one case to the next, but the importance for empaths to avoid reaching this point remains the same. Number 5. Avoidance and isolation. When an empath is put into a fight or flight situation, you can be almost certain that they'll choose flight every time. Like we said, empaths prefer to avoid further escalating danger or disagreements of any kind. So for an empath to walk away to avoid making things worse would be considered a natural response. However, the difficulty comes when an empath is challenged to put down the avoidance card and truly face their disagreements. Whether it be a specific person that caused their anger or an energy-draining obligation that they can't seem to back out of, most empaths will resort to establishing a significant distance between themselves and the person or situation. How long they decide to remain in their bubble of solitude is up to them, because within this time, empaths are usually busy processing their emotions away from people, contemplating if they want to continue with the connection at all. Number 6. Self-sabotage. While the empath can easily empathize with the actions of others, it can be quite the opposite when it comes down to their own emotions and feelings. Empaths of all kinds are usually quite perfectionistic in the sense that they feel a high obligation to others in the best way possible. And since they are so often distracted by mirroring the feelings of other people, they can easily forget to focus on their own true emotions. Not only can empaths come down quite hard on themselves, but they can feel quite guilty for the isolated behaviour being a burden on those that are supposed to be helping. The self-sabotage can be the tipping point to true empath rage if it goes on for long enough. Number 7. Seeming snobby and cold. If being distant and avoidant isn't enough to say that empath rage can easily make an empath come off as cold and snobby individuals, then listen here. Empaths are quite private people, especially when it comes to their emotions. And although they think they're always doing a good job by putting on an act to avoid being questioned for how they're feeling, sometimes their face and body language speaks for them. When empaths have been forced to seemingly turn off their empathetic ways because of rage and anger, it's really because they have no energy or interest for putting in the work to help others or try to understand how they're feeling. They're becoming cold and distant, as if their empathetic services are closed for maintenance. Anyone who's close to an empath knows that this closed-off behaviour isn't malicious, but rather just a cry to be left alone. Number 8. Walking out. Speaking about wanting to be left alone, solitude is one of the only things that really helps an empath to properly process their emotions in the moments of rage and sadness. Like we said, empaths would choose to flight over fight in most scenarios. Because they feel both their own and the other people's emotions on such a deep level, sudden bouts of anger or sadness can become extremely overwhelming for a highly empathetic individual. Whether it's a heated argument, a rude comment, sad news, or even just the presence of an extremely heavy energy, empaths will resort to leaving the room or situation to protect their overwhelmed emotional radar. While this is a highly admired trait by the people who have difficulties controlling their rage, empaths need to learn how to calm themselves down with this time of solitude in order to avoid a negative emotional spiral. Number 9. Sudden physical symptoms. There's no doubt that everyone gets heated when they feel emotionally riled up due to anger or misery, but since empaths have higher emotional sensitivity, they can actually feel physical symptoms of rage quite noticeably. In fact, aside from the normal increased heart rate and stomach churning that comes with emotional anger, empaths often feel a significant increase or decrease in body temperature, lightheadedness, inability to form proper sentences, shakiness, continuous swallowing, and even profuse sweating. Empaths may even recognize these feelings from past experiences when they pop up as an alert to avoid an emotional outburst or self-destruction. It may even be these cues that trigger an empath to walk away from a situation as they are so inclined to do. And number 10. Extreme exhaustion. Although empaths can deliver a grand emotional blow-up if they really wanted to, most of the time empaths are just too damn drained as a result of feeling too many emotions, worries, and uncertainties of others. Once the main contributors to any emotional upset is their obligation to constantly use their powers to better other people, an emotional obligation that empaths never really signed up for in the first place. And so, since they are only human, it can become an undoubtedly tiresome task to say the least. Exhaustion is nothing new to an empath, but extreme exhaustion to the point of oversleeping, avoiding obligations, avoiding self-care, stress eating, and serious procrastination are all signs of the need for some serious R&R. Well, that's it for today, Psychos. So, have you ever dealt with empath rage? If so, comment your best solution down below. Don't forget to leave us a like, share this video with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel for more Psycho videos.